Alright, so let's talk about some air layering here. There's a few varieties of rhodies that I've had a tough time getting to propagate with traditional methods, and so I'm going to do some air layering on them. I've done a lot of air layering on fruit trees and a little bit on rhododendrons, and it works awesome. It's a great way to multiply your plants in the landscape, especially if you can't get them to root by traditional methods. So let's look at our inventory here. So we've got some aluminum foil, just regular old aluminum foil. I've got some electrical tape, my very sharp box knife, and you want a sharp blade for this, and then just some 1 mil plastic. You can get that stuff in any big box store in the paint section. I tried using saran wrap in the past and it just doesn't hold up very well. It's really tough to work with, but 1 mil plastic is thick enough to kind of hold up a little better. And then for my rooting hormone, I use Hormone 3, and that's generally used for harder to root varieties like rhododendrons, a little bit woodier growth, so semi-hardwood or hardwood, and just a little Tupperware with that Hormone in there. So those are my supplies that we're going to work with. Let's go ahead and pop this guy in a stand here and see if I can get to working on this. So this particular variety I have not tried to root yet. I don't know whether it's going to be tough to root or not. It's called Cambium Layer, and it's a species variety. It's the Van Veen form. I just wanted to try it on this one because it's a beautiful plant, awesome flowers, and I wanted to see how things were going to work out doing it this way. I've already gone ahead and done some air layering on the Senator Jackson, the one I really have a hard time rooting, and so we'll just go ahead and try this guy. When you do layering or air layering, you're almost assured to get some roots developed on them because it's still attached to the parent plant, which is a pretty cool way to go. Alright, so I start out by just getting a couple strips of my tape because your hands are going to get real messy here, and I just stick them right on my pants. Oh, almost forgot the peat moss. I'll be right back. Alright, so for the medium, for the air layering, I use peat moss. And I just grab a 5-gallon bucket, dump a bunch in there, and you can see it's soaking wet right now. So what I'll do is just saturate it with water and just let it sit for a few minutes and let it just soak up as much water as it possibly can. And then I'll wring it out with my hands when I get started on the air layering. So you want plenty of moisture in there for the roots to grow onto. Alright, so you can cut this plastic down to any size you want. I do about 1 foot by, I don't know what that is, 1.5 feet or close to it. And then I'll usually rip off a bigger section. And then I've got that section right there for wrapping the section that I'm going to work with here. So I've tried using older wood, newer wood. I don't think it really matters, but this is a good spot for me to go ahead and start. So I'm going to start here, and it's right at a union actually where some old growth and new growth is. This is last year's growth. This is 2 years ago. So we're just going to make a nice sharp slice right around the rhododendron branch, and you're cutting into the cambium layer. That's the layer right under the bark that provides all the nutrients to the plant, or to the new growth. And you don't want that cambium. And then we're going to take the knife and just slice it straight up. See if you guys can see what I'm doing here. We're just slicing it straight up along the branch there. And then I will peel this back. So you're basically girdling the tree. Then you've got this strip of just wood. That wood in there is dead. When trees are growing or shrubs are growing, they produce this wood, and that's just the structure. It's the bones of the plant. It's dead. The live portion is that cambium layer. Let me grab that little piece again. Just under the bark. And it's a softer tissue. In fact, there's the cambium right there. You can see it peeling off. That's the live tissue that supplies the nutrients and the moisture and all of that to the top of the plant. So, and then the bark to protect it. This is just the dead wood underneath. So if you left any of that cambium intact on here, it would just start callousing, and it would actually be able to connect these two again and then continue to feed this plant, and it wouldn't grow roots. So I know I got all the cambium, but sometimes I'll just go along with the blade and just kind of scrape this up a little bit so that I know I scraped off all the cambium. And as long as you got it all off of there, you're good to go. Just kind of rub that all off. Alright. So we'll grab the plastic. This can be the tricky part sometimes. And I just fold it over and then bunch it up just like that. See if you guys can get that. Alright, so I just fold it over here and then just kind of bunch it all up. And then grab a piece of the electrical tape. And this stuff works really well. I used to do this without electrical tape on some fruit trees, and it made it very difficult. I was trying to wrap the plant with peat moss and all that before I had one end taped, and it just made it really difficult. So that tape comes in really handy, because then you create a little pocket here that you can pack your peat into. So grab that peat, and it is saturated, so I just grab a handful of it. I know you can't see that over here, but I grab a handful of it and just wring it out real tight, get all the soaking wet peat moss wrung out, get all the water out of there. Alright, and then it's just moist. You can see the peat. It's real moist, but it's crumbly. It's going to be perfect for rooting this rhododendron. This can be the tricky part, trying to create a little... Oh, almost forgot. I better do this part here. And that's something that is real easy to do. Forget to put the rooting medium or the rooting hormone in there. So it's just that Hormone, and I just grab a little bit of that powder and rub that in there. And now this is where the roots are going to grow from. So they'll grow out from there. I try to get some rooting hormone up in there. Alright, let's keep moving. So I just try to pack that peat moss in there. And I've seen people actually use water bottles for this. Cut the ends off the water bottles, and that can work pretty well too. I like using the 1 mil plastic because I can cut it to any size or shape I want to, depending on what plant I'm working with. When I do fruit trees, I use bigger pieces of plastic. When I do these rhodies, I'm using smaller pieces of plastic because I have smaller branches to work with. Alright, get all that packed in there. A little bit more, and I think we're Probably about there. Alright. So, now we got to form all this into a ball. So I just grab the top portion there. Try to start kind of forming it into a system, or into a little shape that'll be like a pot to grow roots in. And then we can grab this and start folding it down. Doesn't have to be perfect right now because you're going to come back in a sec here after you tape it. And we're going to put some foil over this. And no, this plant is not in sun. The foil generally is to keep the sun from going through the plastic and cooking these cuttings, but I like the foil for structure. It just helps provide some extra support and structure for this whole system. Alright, so we've got this tape we're wrapping around here, and we're going to wrap it real tight and seal that off because we don't want moisture leaking out. Now that piece of plastic that I ripped off here, we're going to go back over here again because we want to keep the moisture in. And you could actually use another piece of that electrical tape if you need to. This particular air layer is a little tougher. Down into this rhodie here. Alright, that'll work. That's sealed up enough. Now I'll take my piece of foil and just wrap it up here. And like I said, I'm in my hoop house right now, so there's no real direct sun hitting this, but I definitely like it for structure. But if you've got this out in the, if you're doing this outside on a fruit tree or any other type of tree, you definitely want to use foil around it because that will deflect the sun and not cause your cutting or your roots in there to overheat and cook. So that's it. Baked potato on a rhodie. And that's what it looks like. Now, right now we're at June 9th, so probably come back, I don't know, in September, October and take a look at things. Might even try a little sooner in August. We'll see what happens. I'll check on it. If they've got roots, I want to get them pot up as quick as possible so they can get a little bit set in before winter time. But I'll definitely pot them up and put them in my hoop house here and keep it protected through the winter. But that should form an awesome little rhododendron. The advantage of doing this as well is you're pretty well assured you're going to get the plant to take root because it's still attached to the parent plant, and the parent plant is keeping this fed and watered. Well, not necessarily fed, but moisture moving through that wood, that dead wood, so it doesn't dry out. And when you do get the new plant off of there, you go ahead and cut it off and pot it up. It will grow a lot faster and turn into a full plant faster because it's already right there. It's already a nice little start. Anyway, that's it for air layering the rhododendrons. Thanks for checking it out.